comments. And anyway, just talking on coaching, we have a game coming up this weekend with Hawthorn and Carlton, for example, where Ken Judge, who was David Parkin's assistant, is coaching against him. And looking at head-to-head just this weekend, for example, in the comp, Dennis Pagan has a record of 4-0 against Stan Elves. Kevin Sheedy 15-11 over Robert Walls. Gary Ayres 3-0 against Neil Baum. Robert Shaw 1-0 against Rodney Eade. Mickey Malthouse 3-0 against Gerard Neesham, and yet to meet Wallace and Northey, Parkin and Judge, Shaw and McConnell. Did you, when you were you coach, and you were coaching, what about when you were, say, coaching against a former teammate or against an old club, did you lift a notch with your preparation?
Well, you do, because you're human. I mean, really, you should be trying your very best, your absolutely very best, every match, as though it was a grand final. That's the theory. You should be doing that. But, because you're human, you don't. So there is a little notch to go up, and sometimes when you're playing against a rival, you do get up that notch, because it's an old player or an old adversary. It's a natural thing, I think.
And what about Ken Judge, coaching against David Parkin?
Well, there's no doubt that Ken Judge would have learned a lot from Carlton last year. Learned a lot which would have helped his coaching, but would have also learned a lot about the Carlton players, and it's very... it's going to be a game where he's going to know what the strengths and weaknesses of the Carlton players are, and that is a huge advantage.
And what about Mel? What do you think David Parkin would be doing? Would he be a bit worried that Ken Judge knows too much about Carlton?
I don't think he would, because I think that David's at the level where that challenge is greater for him. As Ron said, you're trying your extra best, and he knows the opposition knows so much about him, most probably better than anyone in the last few years, and that gives him a greater challenge. But I think the one coach is most probably never going to get a chance to coach against everybody.
He's just ringing Ken Judge there at the moment saying, "You pinched all the ideas from us last year."
What about McConnell? He'll never get a chance to coach against everybody. He only gets 7 games a year.
Yeah, this head-to-head coaching, the coaching figures, that's an American idea, and I think it's vastly unfair.
Is it?
To coaches of bottom sides.
Right.
Yeah, it is.
The production staff, don't do that again this year. Ron's
No,
it's American, Ron said.
It's become quite common in Australia to do this, but I think it leaves a very false impression. It's not a fair test at all.
The Sheedy Walls one was a good comparison where Wolsey coached Fitzroy for quite a number of years, and while Essendon were right up on top. So, it was 15-11, but, those probably 4 or 5 differences may have been when the Fitzroy times were.
It's of interest, but it shouldn't be taken as like 15 Sheeds and 11 Walls. Does that mean that Walls is the poorer coach by about 25%? It doesn't mean that, does it?
Some teams, I know that some teams, they really detest playing other teams that may be lower than them on the ladder, but they always struggle against them. I know Carlton, for example, find the Swans probably over the last 5 or 6 years a hard team to get over.
Well, let's look at this game in particular, the actual Hawthorn-Carlton game. It's on tomorrow night, and you'll see it here live on Optus. They've played 11 times in the 90s. Carlton winning 8 of them to Hawthorn's 3. The average winning margin for Hawthorn 57 points, for Carlton 44 points. And last time they met was in round 10 last year at Optus Oval, where Carlton 26-16 had a 17-goal victory over Hawthorn. But I tell you what, I saw the Hawks against Geelong last week, and they're a lot better side than that.
Isn't it amazing?
But here's Carlton first of all, bouncing back with Kernahan and Pearce.
I was there last week, and they virtually did as they wanted.
The Blues?
It was a very, very insipid effort by Adelaide.
Well, they weren't sort of spirited.
There was nothing there, no. I think when the chips are down, Adelaide pack it in. So you've got to look at the form before that from Carlton's point of view, and they've got to really... That was a danger game for them, and they played very well, but it's going to be tough.
And how much they still rely upon Kernahan, do you think?
Oh, look, he's a huge influence for them. There's no doubt about it. Even when he's not kicking the goals, he's contesting, and his inspirational work. He's done a couple of fantastic things where he chased and tackled and just done the little things and
do you think Greg Williams shoved it up a few critics? Like he's very competitive person.
Yeah, he is a terrific, terrific footballer. He's got to start getting a bit more consistent though. I think that's been the problem this year. He has played some very good games, but too few of them.
Under the pump in this match.
Oh, not so much.
But if he's goes back again and plays ordinary, I mean, that's the inconsistency you're talking about. So if he's going to be consistent, he's got to follow up with last week's pretty good game with another one, doesn't he?
Well, look, there's no doubt he's a great player, and I think he will start stringing them together. But yeah, as you say, he will find a bit of pressure if he doesn't.
We'll get some tips on this game in a moment. We better have a look at things from the Hawthorn perspective. And we've been talking about Ken Judge. He, of course, is the Hawthorn coach, and he coached them very well down at Geelong last Saturday, much to my chagrin. And Rob Gaylard caught up with Ken Judge during the week.
As a footballer, Ken Judge was a highly skilled half-forward flanker for Hawthorn. After being recruited from East Fremantle, success came his way in the first year with the Hawks playing in their '83 Premiership team. 13 years on, Judge is in his first year again with the Hawks, this time as their coach.
Look, I've enjoyed my involvement so far in footy at this level, but obviously the winning times are a bit more enjoyable than the losing, but no, it's been enjoyable so far.
As a coach, he's enjoyed the rewards. Premierships in '92 and '94, at East Fremantle before joining the Blues as their reserves and assistant coach last season. He faces Carlton as opposition coach tomorrow, and the modern era sees the footy field a mental battle as tactics now play a bigger role.
Look, it's become far more tactical now than it's ever been. You know, certainly from my time when I played in the competition, 10 years or so ago, it's changed dramatically from the point of view there's a lot more tactics involved in winning games of footy now than just sending out 18 or 21 players and hoping they're better than the 21 from the opposition.
Parkin's show of admiration to Judge evident after the Blues premiership win last season. He knows a little of his teaching will be on the paddock tomorrow, as these two, who worked as one, now plot against each other.
You just go into the game trying to prepare on the lines of, well, you've seen them do these sort of things before, what would we do in this circumstance to try and combat it? What would we do to take some initiative off them? So it's a bit of there's a battle of wits there for sure.
The rewards on the field often go to the smartest coach on game day. Hawthorn on a roll. Their wins over Geelong and Collingwood showing their improvement under Judge's leadership is no fluke.
Yeah, we're harder to beat side. I don't think we sort of were as accepting as perhaps the side was at the end of last year. I think we've improved our skill level a bit. I think we've recruited a couple of reasonable players. I think Kepler's been good for us. I think Salmon's been good for us. Trelevin and Chick have been quite good for us. So I think we've introduced a few new players as well, which have probably helped us overall as a side.
Sitting just outside the 8, their run home is a tough one. 7 games left, all but 3 of their opponents above them on the ladder. Judge seems to be part of the new breed, the quieter approach, taking each step at a time. Quite often, the steps that send some coaches into frenzied outbursts. We are yet to see that other side of the Hawthorn coach.
You must have missed a few of the games that I've been a bit emotional in. Oh, look, no, I think there's still emotion involved because it's the nature of the game. But yeah, I think because of the tactical side of things, I think you have to keep your wits about you a bit more. I think if you become too paranoid or too focused on something that's happened that's gone wrong for you, you lose the handle on the game.
Success has seen Hawthorn turn their backs on Rupert Burgess with Melbourne. Judge, part of the Hawks' glory years, won't hear of anything but Hawthorn being Hawthorn, the family club. So far, he's pleased with what he's achieved and what his players have reciprocated.
They've worked very hard. We've been competitive all year, and they've probably understood my coaching a bit better in recent times. And there's been an adjustment, I think, from one coach to another. They might only be ever so slight differences, but sometimes they take some adjustment. And I'm pleased with the way they're going. I just hope we can continue for the rest of the year.
Ken Judge there, and Rob Gaylard was reporting for Footy Focus. Let's get some tips at Carlton or Hawthorn tomorrow night at Waverley. Mel Brown.
I think we don't know whether Dunstall's going to play. There's a toss of the coin. His back's pretty crook, I believe. If he's out, that's a big loss. I worry about this game for Carlton. I think with a bit wet, if it's wet and a bit slippery, I think Hawthorn's endeavour's terrific. I'll pick Carlton, but just by a sniff.
Rhys?
Even with Dunstall, Sauce will negate him, so Carlton will win it.
Yeah, silly question to you, really, isn't it? You ever tipped against Carlton?
I did once against Geelong early in the year, and Geelong won.
Yeah, so you've got 100% record. Ron?
Well, we spoke this way about Hawthorn last week, because I was quite interested in their chances of winning against Geelong. I thought they had a chance. I tipped Geelong, and I'm going the same way for Carlton this time, because Bradley's back, and I think Bradley is almost as much an influence as Kernahan.
Well, they reckon he mightn't play Bradley. They think that's a ruse, and he couldn't possibly. Paul Roos.
All right, well, I'm going to go for Carlton, because I'm a bit worried about Dunstall not playing either there. So, Ron, we're agreeing. And you beat me by 1 last week. You got 5 and I got 4. We'll have a break on Footy Focus. Stay tuned, because when we come back, we'll be getting closer and closer to the Classic Gazzers competition, and we'll be meeting up with Mickey McGuan.